Oh, what is shaking, y'all? Did you think that the show was going to stop just because Tuan and I were not on the same page communication wise? No, it wasn't going to stop. Episode 47 of the Golden Mike was going to roll. I found Tuan in cyberspace. He was hanging out in Canada with a microphone in his office, and that's where we're gonna go from. Are you in Canada, right?
I'm in Canada, homeboy. Ottawa, Canada. It's the capital, which most people think it's Toronto, but it's Ottawa. I could deal with that. I could deal with that. It's all good. It's like the bigger brother being shorter than the younger brother. That's me. That's Ottawa.
Well, I'm in the capital of the world, the city of champions,
Woo!
Tampa Bay, Florida, USA, baby.
Nice.
Hockey Bay, USA.
Center of the universe.
Center of the multiverse. There's multi-universes that exist, and Tampa Bay, Florida is in the center of it. Tuan's like, this is why I was secretly trying to hide from this guy.
Yeah, man.
Y'all, it is good to see y'all. We found Tuan, and Tuan, if you want to go into this, before we found each other, I went off into my own golden mic talking about when your mental health and your brand are not in the same alignment, that you need to check your business, because so many people throw out there this idea that like our business is happy, our business is this, but then everybody gets a little bit depressed now and then. We don't have to go all full out and tell our stories, but not being accepting of mental illness and just looking only at the mental positive can be detrimental. So we can talk about that, because I know you are an entrepreneur with a side passion project to bring dads like me together. I thought it was an Asian thing, but it's the Dad Project. For those of you who don't know him, he goes by the name Dude Buddha.
Dude, you got it.
Buddha.
Dude Buddha the house.
Dude Buddha has his own podcast. We'll be talking about that in a bit. I'm calming down because we actually connected with each other. I've been looking forward to this Tuan for a while. For those of you who haven't met me, my name is Mark Cordone. Simply, I run the Make Money coaching program, and more importantly, I'm a positive psychology coach, which means two things. It means two things. First thing is, on a daily basis, stop laughing at me, Tuan. On a daily basis, are you feeling happy? Are you feeling happy? It's that simple, right? Second thing is this: on a daily basis, do you feel like you are living your life at full fulfillment? If you're doing both of those things, you're flourishing, and you don't need a positive psychology coach. Keep living your life. Now, Tuan, I got to ask you this.
Shoot.
Are you feeling good and living your life at full purpose?
Yeah, man.
Booyakasha!
Boom.
So for those of you who are watching and you're feeling like Tuan, you're feeling good and you're living your life at your full purpose, give us some hearts. Tuan, how do you make your heart beat up there? There you go. There you go.
But dude, I think I love that question, by the way. Positive, like, I think for me, living fullest is like knowing that you have to face challenges to push yourself to live to the next level. Yep. I think some people mistake as living to the fullest is like, yo, everything's going perfect, yo, you know what I'm saying? But it's not. For me, it's like the fact that I face crazy challenges every freaking hour. It's part of me like getting there and a journey where I know I'll always dip a bit so I can bounce a bit higher, dip a bit and bounce a bit higher. So that's why I think I'm living my fullest, bro.
I absolutely love that. The idea that living your fullest is sort of this content space in which we no longer will grow. Like we've made it, right? Where we technically haven't made it. Once we've made it, there's another journey to be on, right? Exactly. And so fullest is always a relative term. I also want to throw this out there for those of you who listen to the Dude Buddha podcast and are seeing these Asians, these beautiful Asians for the first time on screen, and you're meeting me for the first time. I don't just talk about positive psychology from the standpoint of shits and giggles 24/7, Taco Tuesday every day. Positive psychology is much more deep than that, y'all. It has to do with the ups, downs, and all arounds of life. So if you're not feeling good today, or if you are feeling like you used to live your life to the fullest and now you're going through a transition and you're like, Cordone, I don't know what's going on with me anymore. That is cool too. Your heart is beating just like everybody else. It's going to be a part of your magnificent hero's journey. So give us a thumbs up to just let us know that you're just making it happen right now. I want to see how you do this third one, Tuan.
Oh, snap.
Third one is this. And we needed it more than ever. If you're feeling optimistic about your future, if you feel like tomorrow, no matter where you are, is going to be a kick-ass day. Tanae, Carrie, Tuan, give us a big old wow face. Let me see that wow face, Tuan. Oh my God! Oh my God! What the hell?
No shame, brother. No shame.
Shame. No shame. Worth the wait. Worth the wait. Carrie, it's good to see you today. Tanae, making the most out of it. Everybody, this is what I need more than ever. Tuan and I did not get to do some promo on this because we are putting the show on the fly. So Tanae, Carrie, Maravek, if you have the opportunity, share this out. Tuan's got a message and he's on the golden mic. So share this out. There's no other day that I'm going to ask this because we could not publicize this, our brother in advance. He deserves to be heard. Everyone deserves to be heard. And given that, Tuan, we're going to talk about all these things today. We're going to talk about especially this idea of hustling and unhustling. But I want to know before all of that, what is your story, man?
Wow. All right. I'm going to try to do it in 3-4 minutes to catch up. All right, guys? So I was born in Vietnam in 1975, but this is where I focus a lot of my story because I was born with purpose for this reason. And I was born and I was only 20 days old when we left by boat. We're one of the first boat people to leave Vietnam back in 1975. And after 10 days, and I don't know who's our parents here, but if you guys are a parent, you'll get this. When your child is 20 days old, you know how fragile that child is. And after 10 days at sea, my mom thought she was carrying a dead infant. She thought I was gone. And at the grace of God or the universe, whatever you want to call it, a U.S. carrier picked us up and basically shocked me back to life, brought me to Hawaii. I flatlined, shocked me back to life again. And I've been alive ever since. And I've been living my entire life with this particular story, right? It's almost like it's given. I'm not even supposed to be alive. And so I'm kind of not afraid to do anything, right? And I tried everything in my best ability to do what's right for me and what's right for the people I care about. And that led us into Canada for various reasons. My mom's side of the family was in Canada. And my dad had a heart attack very early. So my mom was pretty much like a single mom raising all of us. But the amount of stuff she could complain about, she is a ball of positive energy. She's 80 years old this year, and she is a fire freaking cracker, right? And growing up with this, and I've grown with a significant health problems. I have a heart condition. I have all these things that I deal with, but it's not seen by the public, but it's not seen by me either in a way, right? And as I pursued a life of volunteerism, giving back to my community for helping my family, I would have never known that through the act of volunteerism and people seeing your commitment to helping others, would these people inspire you to say, yo, man, you got what it takes to be your own business. And so I launched a business that was it was a university project back in the day. They just learned about this project I was running on the side. And they said, yo, this could be something really, really big. And that business ended up becoming multi-millions of dollars. I took it across the country. It was basically like Yellow Pages online before Yellow Pages went online. In fact, they tried to buy us after 7 years in. Right but then what happened was I built more and more businesses and I sold them. And every time I sold them, I donated all of it to charity. If I made like 4 million, I gave 4 million away. It's always just giving away and start from scratch. And it was just this crazy amount of gratitude I had. At the same time, truthfully, you kind of get addicted to it. You do. I had no mentorship to show me what I could do with all this fame and power that I newly received. And it brought me to a space of inauthenticity. I was fake. And it's because I said, oh my goodness, now I get a chance to meet the president. And I just want the president to like me so badly. And so, dude, I did everything I could to be accepted by a bunch of people. Not saying they're bad, but it was, they weren't really anything to me other than me wanting them acceptance. I didn't really know them, right? So then, anyways, it went on to about 30 years old, and that's when I realized I was miserable. Because for some people who come to me like, dude, you made tens of millions, that's amazing, it's like a dream come true. For me, that wasn't a dream come true. My intent was never to become a multimillionaire. My intent was to build a strong community, starting with a strong family. And when I meet people with amazing families who have brilliant relationships with their wives, their husbands, their children, and I see that beautiful connection, that's $1 billion for me that I am working my ass off to attain. I felt really scarce that it was difficult to attain this. And so I rushed into a marriage. I got rid of everything, rushed into a marriage, got divorced, got miserably depressed. And then luckily, like when you love a community so much, they love you back when you're down. So when I was down and out, there's people in the community that reached out to me and they said, yo, man, you are suffering. And I was too proud to show that I was suffering. But your friends see when you are down and you're like putting on this brave face. But they're like, my buddy Mike Machargo is like, yo, man, you're pretty messed up now, man. Like, trust me, you're messed up. So I'm coming over right now. He came over with a little mini bottle of vodka and orange juice, screwdriver, right? And he's like, let's just chill, right? And he was the first person to say, you could break down, bro. It's okay. Yeah. Right. And so I'm actually a little emotional thinking about this right now, that moment. But eventually, I did find my way up. I won't dive into how I got my way up in terms of how I rebuilt my career, my business. But what was more important to me is I start sharing my journey on Facebook. And now I'm not building a tribe. Like my podcast is the Awesome Biz Dads podcast, and I get to connect with cool dads like yourself. But I'm not like really trying to build this into something big. The reason I started this was the 11th hour where I was gonna I felt miserably depressed and I was like contemplating suicide, all this stuff. I had my son. He was only a year old. And as a parent, you'll appreciate this. When your kid cries in the middle of the night, you're like, hey, he's alive, but dang, I got to get up and grab the kid or maybe change him. But the kid's alive. And
the whole thing where you wake up and you're like, are you breathing, son?
Exactly. You're just watching the back and then, okay, it's good, right? So probably the first time he slept through the night, but I freaked out. But I was so depressed. I remember going to bed, like saying, oh, I just wish I could crawl into space and never wake up. And then I woke up and I was like, wait a minute, it's 7:30 a.m. And I freaked out. And I ran across the room and I thought something had happened. And there he was sitting up, smiling, playing with his freaking toys, right? And I'm like, holy cow. So I realized that urgency of how much I cared for my son, of course, love him. And I remember picking him up and it's like, I'm never giving up on you and me ever again. Boom. And from that point on, it was one foot in front of the other, sharing on Facebook. And I knew that if I taught my son everything I knew, I would teach him to fall into the same mistakes. So I'm like, how do I get out of my own mistakes? Well, I better connect with cool dads. So I started having coffee meetings and I shared the journey on Facebook. And then as I shared more nuggets of wisdom, I started getting people following me. And now I have 15,000 followers on my Facebook. And I don't even have a business on this. It's just like, hey, Tuan, we follow you. I'm like, cool. It's like, okay, that's great, But like my intention is not to do anything other than continue the journey of connecting with awesome biz dads in particular, because we struggle with the same thing and supporting each other. And that's it. That's all I'm doing with my side project. But it's named the Dude Buddha just through another conversation with a bunch of dads. I'm known as the Gangsta Buddha because I grew up in the streets, but I'm spiritual. So my friends like, yo, you're like a gangster, but you're spiritual. I'm like, yeah, man, I'm the Gangsta Buddha. So that's since I was like, I don't know, 9-10 years old that I've been called the Buddha. And
the Gangsta Buddha. So you are not the Dude Buddha. You're the Gangsta Buddha.
Yeah, Dude Buddha is the community of Buddhas, right? So the reason it's not Dad Buddha, it's because when we connect with our guys, we remind each other that we're dudes playing the role of a dad, playing the role of a business person, playing the role of a husband, and being a man himself too. So by saying dude Buddha, we're like, yo, just remember we're dudes, right? And we got to get connected, and we're going to evolve together as a community. And that Buddhism is like community in my head. There you go. That's how it works.
I love it, dude Buddha. I mean, I love it, Gangsta Buddha. Coming from Disruptor Buddha.
Yeah, I love it. Sick Buddha. Name.
Wait till Disruptor Buddha comes on Dude Buddha's show. I mean, Dude Buddha show to talk to Gangsta Buddha. I think all of us agree with Carrie. Like, incredible story. I think one of the things that's really incredible as I hear your story is, here is a person that was literally, his ass was shocked back to life as a kid, and you can still fall into dark places, right?
Yeah.
Like, you still needed to find hope externally until it came back and you found a reason internally to move forward.
Absolutely.
I wanted to throw this out there because I think you tuned into something that I don't necessarily get to talk about on my show, but I was pitching this to the media a lot because of a lot of the mental health issues that have been going on as of late. And this idea of, I just wanted to throw it out there. Bromance. Can you see my screen?
I love it.
It's like pop-up video, right?
I love it. Bromance.
So like this idea of bromance, right? And so like this idea that like, two dudes are getting close, so they must have this bromance going on. And I think one of the things that it might imply is how we're adopting the idea of toxic masculinity, that men are not to be ones that say that they're struggling, right? Or say that
we allowed to swear.
We can do
okay, awesome.
Fuck we want. It's a 11:45 a.m. show. Fuck. So you're like, this guy's out of control. So like this idea of not only bromance, but the idea of toxic masculinity. When I first had my kid, I was a single dad, and the only way I knew how to connect was not by going on Facebook and talking to other guys, but I put on a pair of roller skates and joined a roller derby team because half of them were dads and single dads. And like during the breaks, like we would talk about our kids, and that was my community at the time. You know, now that I've been able to go out into entrepreneurship a little bit more, and I'm finding more single dads, it's a lot easier to connect. But talk to me about this idea of masculinity and why that's important for you.
Yeah, so I think masculinity has evolved so much, and it's very important for me because it's part of, I think I would say, my DNA, right? But I grew up with a lot of feminine energy. I grew up with all Italians, so I was always insecure about my own masculinity, right? And so it's something I've struggled my whole life, and now connecting with fellow dudes, it's been so interesting to see how masculinity is evolving, how the energy is evolving, and how we're, in all honesty, like, I'm not going to try to paint a rosy picture. We're all trying to figure it out. Yeah. Right. Yeah. We're all really trying to figure it out. And what I've learned, in my case, at least, is that, vulnerability is a big thing people talk about these days. Right. And that's very, very powerful, to be vulnerable. But I've also learned how much it takes for a man to get to that point. Right. So there's a bunch of dudes hanging out together. There's bromance dudes to get together, but toxicity. But then there's also a bunch of dudes together saying, yo, man, it's okay to say, I don't know shit. Yeah. Right. Now, so for the record, I'm not a public speaker, although I've done a ton of public speaking. I don't consider myself a public speaker. But the last time I went up on stage, I said there's a silver lining behind the high divorce rates. Is I think because of that, men are given an option to decide whether they want to be present and example to their kids, or they're going to screw up the rest of their life and stay as is, right? And so, I'm meeting all these divorced men and single fathers who have made the choice to figure shit out. Yeah. right?
Yeah.
And I really think it's a movement that yourself and myself and all the men that I've been able to connect with, we're contributing to this evolution, and the women around us are there cheering us on. I have a good friend named Wendy, and she's like, I love cheering on the conscious men. That's what she says, right? Oh, she's like the cheerleader for the conscious men, and I'm like, I don't know what a conscious man is, but I think we're all trying to figure it out, and we've all accepted that being fully aware and in touch with ourselves, from our feminine energy to our masculine energy,
Yep.
is very important. And that's like using it coachy words, but
Yep.
but you know what I mean? Like, I'm only using those terms recently, to be honest. I'm just saying, I used to say do that or whatever, stuff like that, right? And so for me, that's what masculinity means to me. It means an evolution, a movement that requires community and support and a tribe to figure it out and lend each other their greatest lessons, their biggest epic failures around masculinity, and sharing vulnerably for us to grow as a community and be better men for the people we care for.
Yeah, and so this idea of masculinity and where it's at right now, um, where do you think it is that we acquire sort of and by we, sort of the general public acquires the current ideas of masculinity? It's so for example, the idea of not emotionally sharing yourself, it shows that it doesn't serve you if you go into like mental illness, right?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't serve you to isolate, because the worst thing that can happen is that you become isolated from a community. What happens in other tribes? The tribe kicks your ass out of it. So,
Yeah, yeah.
in the worst case scenarios, you're taking yourself out of the tribe, which is very, very, very deleterious to your health. Um, where is it that we pick those messages up? Do you think that that's nature? Do you think that that's nurture? A
Uh,
little bit of both?
I would say it's a combination, right?
Okay.
Environment is important. I'm not sure what you were like, but in my Asian upbringing, I knew my dad loved me my whole life, but he never said much to me, you know, and he never showed a lot of emotions. Can
Yeah.
you feel? Are you feeling me?
I'm feeling
Right?
you. I'm
Yeah,
feeling you, gangsta
you know.
B.
And
Gangsta
so,
B.
yeah, man. So a slight digression. I used to speak with an Italian accent until I kind of got rid of it, actually. But it was naturally Italian. In fact, if I don't drink much, but if I ever do get buzzed, it comes out on its own. So it's like a gangster Italian too. So, um, but I think it's a combination of both. I see old dialogue in me. So they're saying your external voice becomes your child's internal voice.
Mm,
And so your external voice and your energy becomes their internal energy and their internal voice. So I feel the internal voice passed down to me from my parents, and I know that came from their parents, and it's just passed on. In fact, one of these guys, his name's Trevor Munvan, he's like local here in Ottawa. His one of my favorite lines he says is, what we pass on our kids, that's really impactful. It's not the fancy cars, not the yachts, not the will, it's not the money. It's the dialogue that we pass on. That's the greatest inheritance that we're passing on to our kids. And
mm,
so this whole toxic masculinity thing, I think a lot of it's driven by, an aggregate of societal dialogues that have been pushing this forever,
yeah.
right? But men have becoming more aware, and the younger men are becoming more aware, and so the younger men need men who are in this between. I consider myself in between that generation, to like pick up and get there, and if not, at least open up about trying to get there. Like with my kids, they're incredibly aware, and I tell them straight up, I kind of know what I'm doing, because I was depressed at one point, and now I'm trying to figure out myself out, and said, I'm sorry, I lost my shit on you today, but
Yeah.
it's not your fault. It's just I have to
Yep.
really overcome some stuff that I've been telling myself for 30 years.
Yep.
Right. And so I think that all feeds into this whole masculine ego and pride. And we only realize it when we're about to have a heart attack. That shit, maybe I shouldn't have kept all those feelings inside of me all these years. Right.
Yeah. Again, like it's hard, because when ego is ego, right? And it's just the idea of anybody, man, woman, Asian, white person, holding that ego in, or holding things in, and you're at a point, and the next thing you realize is that you've lived a life and you have regrets, and it's too late to change some of those things. That is something that I see as being really destructive. I wanted to ask you this, brother, when, because you've definitely opened up. I mean, you thought that I was gonna josh on you this whole time because we couldn't get on this link. I told them behind the scenes I was gonna like rag on him, but more so, you've really opened up about some times in your life that could be seen in retrospect as, yeah, that was a total low. That was a total low. Um, and you're standing here very confident. You know, you ostensibly got your shit together, right? Now, if you were to go back and tell the person who was kind of down in the dumps, or go up to him now and kind of, Tuan now, go and talk to Tuan, younger Tuan. What is it that you'd say to that dude?
I'd probably say a few things. I'd
Yeah.
say, there's three things that I typically say now to people being reflected back.
Mhm.
So first thing is, our mindset is like an orange. And I got this from Wayne Dyer, Dr. Wayne Dyer, which is, when you squeeze an orange, what comes out of it is orange juice. Have you heard this one?
No, I'm just
No?
giving praise to Doctor.
Yeah. So when you
Yeah.
squeeze an orange and orange juice comes out, but how does the orange juice get inside? Well, no one puts it inside. It's already in there. So basically, if when someone squeezes you like an orange, what comes out of you is what comes from inside. And what's inside of you, it's you who puts it in there. No one else can put it in there. So if it's anger, it's sadness, frustration. So letting them know that they are like that orange, and they can, take the power of thought and basically create a more positive outcome. So then, of course, you're down and out. It's impossible to get there. So then I go to the next step, which is mini habits, mini steps, baby steps, and I let them know that the brain is stuck in negativity, but you can train the brain by slowly doing little wins at a time, tiny little wins, bit by bit, and eventually you just train the brain to accept and think in the way you like it to think. But the last thing is, we all tend to fall out of our own mini steps and mini habits, which we require a community or accountability. So whether bring on a coach, surround yourself with the right people, these are like my 3 steps to doing anything you want, overcoming negativity or building a brand new habit. So it's like, mindset, mini habits, and surrounding yourself with community. So whether like I hired a coach, when I was going through my stuff, and it's because I kind of knew what I had to do, like losing weight, but I just had to have someone to kick my arse when I was lazy ass, right? So same thing with my coach. She was like, Tuan, you're getting to this disempowering. That's a word I learned from her. It's a disempowering thought, or more like, she goes, how is that thought? Does that empower you, disempower you? I'm like, all right, fine. It disempowers me. You're right. Okay, fine. Done. Like, move on.
It no longer
right?
serves you. Let it go. Right? Thank it and let it go.
Yeah. So, but that's what I would tell my younger self, those 3 things. And then the last thing is, I would actually sit down with that person, myself, and draw out like a 1 month or 2 month action plan. So we together can produce that together, see it on paper, and then I would commit to being the accountability partner to start until he finds other people that resonates with him even better than me.
That's fantastic, man. You got Carrie giving you peaches.
Oh, thanks, Carrie.
Oh,
Thank
no,
you.
orange juice. Wow, orange juice, and then I think it's the oranges at the end. I was like,
I love it.
I was like, did Tuan turn around? Because I didn't see any peaches. Carrie, it's good to have you. By the way, our brother Jorge in Puerto Rico is tuning in. Jorge, Puerto Rico.
Hola.
This is fantastic. I also want to talk about this idea of the hustle mentality.
Mm-hmm.
The hustle mentality. And one of the things that I know you talk about a lot is it's antithetical to the hustle mentality, the anti-hustle mentality, or the unhustle mentality. What do you mean by that, Tuan?
So in my case, it's I think still relevant to most parts of life, but it started from the business perspective. So I've had 4 tech companies, and the first 2 I worked my ass off. And here's like I said in the beginning, what's worth $1 billion for me is being in a good relationship and having the right community and family. And so I've loved every woman I've dated, and it's not like I dated 1,000 or hundreds or anything, but I lost every relationship, and the funny thing is, I had a fundraiser where 6 of my exes came together, and we're all like they're supporting me because we're all friends still, you know, and
That's awesome. That's awesome, dude.
I was with my girl at the time, and the hospital president was there, and he knows me, and he's like, "Wow, I haven't seen all 7 of you girls in a while," and my first ex girlfriend when I was 18. She's like, how could we hate Tuan? I mean, he was too busy for us, but he was too busy helping other people, right? And so
Yowzers.
they never hated me, but
Yeah.
but I did realize that it wasn't because I was working hard. Here's the real reason: is that I was hiding behind my hustle. I was hustled for the right reason, but then I started hiding behind my hustle. And it's something I express lots to my fellow dads, my entrepreneur friends, is that are you hustling or are you hiding behind the hustle? Because if you're having shit happening at home, or you can't connect with your kids and things are driving you crazy, or your health is falling apart, but you're working even more and you're using work as an excuse, I can tell that you're hiding behind your hustle, because I've been guilty of that for for sure 3 of my 4 businesses and my volunteer experience. So so that's one thing, is like the hustle becomes a really easy thing to hide behind and not address real things that matter to you, right? And I was so afraid to overcome these challenges because I didn't know if I would be successful, if I fail. I had all this feared dialogue in my head, but yet I'm public speaking, talking about how to make millions of dollars. Like, how does that even make sense, right? Like, it was inauthentic, right? And so that's one part. The other side of the hustle is that.
Tuan, I wanted to ask you this: how did it feel when you were doing that? Did you like, a lot of people will come in and say, well, I've had, I might have felt like an imposter. Was that something that you felt at the time, or were you working so hard that you didn't even have yeah?
No, I felt guilty. I knew I was doing something wrong.
Okay.
But I just didn't know what else to do. Right, and I didn't bother reaching out to tell people what I was feeling. I just tried to do it on my own. Right. And so like that's one half. The other half of the hustle was that ever since I had my son, I made a commitment that I would reverse engineer my life. I would say I only want to work 20 hours a week, maybe 30 at the most. And whatever I could build within that time period is what I build. If it's 80,000, it's 80,000. If it's 100 grand, it's 100 grand. Whatever it is, I'm not going more than max 30 hours a week because I want to be there for my kids. And the reason I felt I was going to be able to do this is because when I look back at especially the first 2 businesses, I was working a lot of hours. And I remember one time we're sitting in the room just throwing a ball against a wall for an hour. And then we came up with a solution for a problem we were having. And if someone had just said, Tuan, you got 5 minutes to come up with a solution for your team, we'd come up with a solution in 5 minutes. Meaning I could have built multi-million-dollar businesses in 30 hours a week, 35.
Yep.
And in fact, one of the guys on our podcast, Hayden Miyamoto, is about to hit $1 billion at 32 hours a week. And he's been there for his family ever since. And he is a mentor for me because he reminds me that it's still possible. Right. And it's not about the money. It's more like, I only want to do this with my family. And hey, if I make $1 million, great. If not, no sweat. I don't care. Right. But now I know that the hustle mentality was trained to all of us through social media. And back then there was no social media. It was just mentors saying, if you don't work 70 hours a week, you're never going to make it. It's not true. You might have ebbs and flows of some, but I've known people who work constantly 60, 70 hours a week for years. That just doesn't make sense. And I know that if they had a child or if there was an illness or some crisis, they would figure it out. And everyone figures it out as long as they're determined to succeed. They figured out how to get there more efficiently, and they realized some stuff was never that important. So that's why the unhustle is the exercise of revisiting yourself, challenging yourself to not have to work that hard, and also letting go of certain dialogues and even things that you thought was valuable that's actually not really that valuable in life.
Yeah, that's what I love about it is there's so much in terms of becoming aware of what we've been indoctrinated to think success is, and so much unlearning that has to do. But once we start going into a place of self-concordance, a place where purpose is an internal mechanism, we can start drawing up our own blueprints. And suddenly, like, people are like, oh my gosh, how is it that you're getting more done in less time? Well, technically speaking, like, I've kind of as you call it, I've learned to unhustle, where I put my priorities first. Or one of the things that one of my first productivity coaches had told me was time actually expands to what you allow it to expand to. So if you say that you've got a project due or a book due in 6 months, then you actually allow it to expand to 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
If you shorten that time and you work shorter, you can actually jump through these little portals and get it done still, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I love the fact that you bring up the unhustle in a very practical way that is sensible, and it doesn't feel like you're jumping through portals, all these sort of things, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It just makes sense. Now, when you started presenting this to others, how were people responding to this?
Um, in the beginning, it was interesting. We see the
Yeah,
concept, you know,
yeah, yep,
but now it's been 3.5 years, and
yeah,
I don't know how many people listen here are entrepreneurs, but you know, in my group, we don't we encourage us to say what we've accomplished. Right? It's a hard thing for me to even say what I'm accomplishing, but I'm going to say it right now. I work 22 hours a week, and I'm probably going to hit 7 figures this year, and I've proven to my friends, and the people I've interviewed are proving it as well, like Hayden being an example of that. And so I'm proving that it's possible. But what's more important for me is not me proving it myself. What's more important to me is sharing all the tips and hacks around efficiency, around connecting with your kids, connecting with yourself and your partner. You know, is over time, when we build this best practices, I'm hoping that one biz dad will be that guy who's like an Elon Musk, but the world knows him as a phenomenal husband and a father, and deeply aware of himself. Right? That's like the ultimate thing. And I think there's enough people in this space that want to promote that together. Right?
yeah.
So
And I think one of the questions that I was going to ask you sort of towards the end of the show was movement wise, like people who create movements can oftentimes have an idea for down the road what the movement looks like. And what I'm hearing you say is, one person rises from the group, and that's the tipping point.
yes, exactly.
That's the tipping point person. It's not that Tuan's like, oh, it's me and I'm that Elon Musk dad.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
more along the lines of now there is a figure in the public eye. This is what it looks like, and we are officially shaping and shifting the way that we have thought about business, the way that we've thought about dadness, the way that
Mm-hmm.
we have thought about showing the frick up, which is really interesting. I hope I have a TEDx coach, and I hope that she's watching, because when I was talking to her last night, she was like, we went through a bunch of stuff, and she was like, your TEDx is about showing the frick up. It's about
Mm-hmm.
showing up and being present. And I think that it's interesting that you and I are talking, because being present is one of the greatest gifts that you can give. So, anyways, with that whole movement work, I think it's amazing, man. Let's talk about your actual story of where you learned well, actually, you know what? No, let's go there. Let's talk about your actual story of learning to unhustle.
Mm-hmm.
Was it through your low point that you learned to unhustle?
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. It
okay.
was uh I don't even know when it really started, to be honest, right? But there was some kind of a moment of clarity. I don't remember
Yeah.
exactly that moment actually. Maybe it was my son when I said this is time to move forward, right? That time.
Yeah.
But the what I actually did was when I saw results. It was when I started reaching out, when I started building little my own mini mastermind groups, when I realized that I care about men and women equally, but I
Yeah.
realized that I resonate with other men and
Yeah.
other men resonate with me. And when we're able to talk it through, and we have women coming in to speak within our little mini groups. I don't have like a global tribe. I just host it locally and in Toronto and then in the Silicon Valley, since that's my background, right? But it's actually starting this little tribal community first, where we can share. So step one was for me to find people I value. But before that, I realized that when people talk to me like, okay, Tuan, I kind of don't really know what you're talking about still. You need to be more specific. And this guy, his name Jovan Langford, and because the reason I'm not dropping names here, it's just he made a difference in my life. It's why I'm mentioning him. But he said the universe rewards specificity.
Yep. Yep.
So I'm like, I didn't know what that meant, but I guess got to be more specific, right? So then I was like, okay, what do I value and what's important to me? And so I came up with my value pillars, which is I value business or entrepreneurship, being able to create whatever you dream of. I value fatherhood. I value self-care, and I value relationship because that's the pillar I struggle with the most, but I'm most interested in developing. And when I came up with these 4 pillars, I listed, as I met up with men, I placed them in one of these categories as people who I can talk to raise my game up. And that's the whole, you're the average of the 5 people that you surround yourself with. But like universe rewards specificity. So I had to be specific in where I want to be raised or risen, or whatever the way it's in English. Hey, for a special note, English is actually my 3rd language. So I speak Vietnamese, then I speak French. I grew up speaking French, and now and English has been in my life for about 15, 20 years now. So sometimes I struggle for words.
Dang, son.
But so I had to be specific, and I said, I want to make sure I raise my game in these 4 areas. So I need to surround myself with amazing people in these 4 areas. And, if I could share my screen, for example, I could show you my spreadsheet. Well, I mean, I'm not gonna share now, but it's pretty simple.
I was like, I want to know who those people are.
Yeah, it's a spreadsheet, and I have the 4 pillars, and I have names. I have like probably 100 names in each of these 4 pillars. And as long as I touch base with any of these guys twice a week, my game is always maintained at a level where I want it to be, or I'm always reminded so I don't fall back into the pit again. Right. So that's I think my main steps to unhustling. Again, it's like mindset, mini habits, and community. I created all that, but you still have to be more specific. And I think being specific is what's going to help you drive results in your life, the results you want, at least. Right. I do everything without expectations. So when a result happens, like it's almost like a Christmas gift. Oh, cool. This is what I always wanted, I guess, but it's just like being consistent with where you want to be. On a note about being present, just to finish it off, I believe that we're always present, but it's what we're present to. So that's my recent realization. I realized that when I'm with my kids and I feel a lack of presence, it's because I'm present to existing thoughts about the future. But my head is not in the future. It doesn't even exist, but I'm present to thoughts. But I got to shift my presence. So I'm more about where are you shifting your presence? And that's part of unhustling too, because when you're hustling, and normally I find hustlers are thinking about the future, shareholders, or maybe like my kid might not become a pro hockey player. Like that creates this weird hustle mentality that's very toxic.
Yeah.
But where do you want to shift your presence, I think, is key.
That's so freaking money. We got some love coming in from Canada, so I'm gonna throw it in there. Walter from Vancouver. Power is effortless. Force is hustle. Work.
Sweet.
Right.
Sweet.
We got Rebecca coming in from Miami, Florida. Love that. What we're present to.
Thank you, Rebecca.
It makes so much sense, right? That like it's almost like we have a flashlight on, right? And it's pretty much wherever we're directing that flashlight, and that flashlight can be in the present, it can be in the past, it can be in the future, and then when it's in the present, it can be up, down, all like you can be looking all around. So I thought that was great.
Thank you. I received it from someone, and I'm just passing it on. So that's what I believe. We're all messengers.
You're all coachy speak now, man.
It's funny.
We're all messengers, man. Yeah. So I would throw this out to anyone who's watching the show live or on the repeat. What are your value pillars?
So simple. Again, it's So it's well, at least in the context of what we're talking, I define my values as entrepreneurship, creativity. So creativity and So I guess that's it. But I like to say entrepreneurship,
Yeah,
self-care,
yeah,
so mind, body, spirit, fatherhood, being the best example to my children as possible, and relationship, being able
yeah.
to be the right person, the best person in any in romantic relationship and friendship, and so relationships is a major pillar of mine as well.
I love it. And those of you watching, what are your specific value pillars? Obviously, um, it may not be the same as Tuan's, but becoming conscious of those of what your value pillars are, right? And then once those are up, it sounds like you buttress those with specific names of people that
Yeah,
that
yeah,
meet those
yeah,
value pillars.
yeah.
So what are your pillars, Walt? Rebecca, what are your pillars? Carrie, what are your pillars? Let us know. I would throw the same things out, and what I would ask is, Tuan, what happens when we start throwing out um, value pillars that might be in conflict with other value pillars? So, for
Hmm.
example, I've got a value pillar when it comes to, I guess, autonomy and freedom. That's where that sort of feeling of independence comes from. But
Hmm.
I also have a huge value pillar that's equally as strong of community.
Hmm.
And so, in many times, the community expectation of me and my individual expectation of myself seem to be in conflict.
Right.
How would you work with somebody or talk to somebody who has those
All right.
value
So
pillar
I'm gonna be a
conflicts?
little direct here. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So first of all, respectfully, don't give a shit about what anyone thinks.
Okay.
Right. Respectfully, meaning you know what's best for you. Right. You know the boundaries you need to set that's best for you. Like fatherhood, business, self care, relationship. All these tug at each other. Right. They all tug at each other, but I know intuitively what's best for me. And I trust it because the moment I didn't trust it, I screwed myself up.
Mm,
Right. And so, all your pillars are meant to tug at you, and your journey for the rest of your life is to, as best as possible, be in flow in terms of moving from one to the next. And I tell people, like, when I say I work 20 hours a week, doesn't mean I'm sitting back sipping a margarita all day. I've I've chosen to be heavily challenged in
yeah,
these four areas that I value. So when I
yeah.
say value pillars, where do you want to be challenged for the rest of your life? In what areas? So, and I like to say is this: I'm like, if you think a value pillar you can actually talk about 30 topics, like almost like write 30 blogs, that's pretty good. And at the same time, do you have 30 or hundreds of questions still? So fatherhood, I have so much to share as a father, but at the same time, I have so much I want to learn as a father that I think this is a journey or a value pillar I could commit to for the rest of my life. Right. And it's just
Awesome.
balancing those pillars and figuring it out and being challenged. So I feel very balanced because I'm freaking challenged in all these four areas that it drives me nuts sometimes. But at least I know that when it's time for me to move on to my next life, I think I did a pretty awesome job trying to create that flow for me. And
I abs-
that's how I roll.
I absolutely love it. I love the fact that, well, number one, just don't give a shit, and then number two, the idea of the two can actually have a reconciliatory effect on each other, rather than being seen as sort of at odds, right?
Hmm.
And so, in many ways, um, sort of doing my own thing can actually be uplifting for the tribe versus
Yeah.
having to apologize to it. Um,
Hmm.
we've got our first person in Europe, Alexa. It's good to see you. Alexa's throwing some
Hello,
five five
Alexa.
five hearts at you.
Wow. Wow.
Um, Walter, Canada's coming in strong all of a sudden.
Oh,
Canada's
nice.
coming in strong. If it has flow, it's good to go.
Oh
And if it
man,
doesn't have flow, it's gotta go.
Walter, drop a beat, man. When it rhymes, you gotta join us on the live, and we could just drop a beat.
When it rhymes, I don't know. I don't know. You lose me there. Um, Rebecca Weintraub is dropping the idea of intuition. Intuition is somewhere in all of this. Awesome, Rebecca. Awesome. Um, so it looks like everybody's warming up. We were 30 minutes late, but everybody's warming up. I wanted to throw this out there. We got your Dude Buddha website
Yeah,
going on.
yeah.
And what is this, dude? Buddha Barbados retreat?
Yeah. So so that retreat was a bit of a pilot project at first,
Mm-hmm.
and so just for the viewers and listeners, so I always promote or encourage organizing something you want to attend. And by the way, all my events are nonprofit, so I don't make a profit in any of these things. It's like we open the books, it breaks even. If we have extra money, we donate to charity. That's pretty much it, right? And so the Barbados retreat is a full family retreat for the biz dad and their families, and they go down there, and the mornings from 6 a.m. we start with like yoga meditation, like Miracle Morning, Hal Elrod style. And then we go through each a topic every day, from business to personal awareness. I don't like the word development, but personal awareness. And then, you know, it's basically 7 days of this, but we're there for 10 days. But then at lunchtime, the family comes down and we all have lunch together. Because I'll tell you, I've done daddy retreats. It's amazing to connect with these amazing men, but I miss my kids and my family, everyone. From like the moment we start talking about children, it's like, forget it. Like, it's over. Get me home, right? So, but I don't mind having a dedicated space. And then as long as I can join them afterwards, that's kind of cool. But what's really cool that we've experimented with is that because we know which families are coming and their kids, they have all their ages. And we know, like, we curate activities for, you know, like 7 and under. And then we curate from 8 to 12, and then 8 to 12, and then 13 and up. You know, it's like another set of activities. Because how many times have we all gone as a family vacation and we can't please everyone because we've got like a little kid, a big kid, and it just doesn't work, right?
Yep.
So, but the whole point of the activities is it promotes engagement, interaction, but we also coach the parents, especially the fathers, of course, on how to bring out the awesomeness of their each other, and so through questions, through curiosity, right? And so the activities are specifically curated for this purpose, and then at night it's a free-for-all, do whatever you want kind of thing.
Right on.
Right. So it was done last year and it was great. And so this year, the truth, it's already sold out because I only have 12 spots.
You suck, MC. You came on my show to tell me about this amazing retreat that nobody can go on from.
I just came from a daddy summit, and the last 2 spots were like literally this past weekend. I was in St. Louis for the Dad Edge Summit, and 2 spots, the last 2 spots were picked up by two guys there. I'm like, wow, dude, I wasn't even expecting to have any spots, you know, because we don't sell this. It's literally someone went on my site and then they're like, dude, you got something happening in Barbados? Like, yeah, but I don't sell when I'm at, I don't go out to sell. It's just like, if you can one, you know. So I'm blessed, but again, this time we upped the price to 25,000, and we're going to be able to make, I think at the end of the cost, maybe about a $20,000 donation to charities. So we might break it down to like $1,000 donations and stuff like that. But it's going to be incredible, and the kids are going to be the ones who are going to put in like a vote to which charity. So the parents back out, and we get to hear the kids what's important to them, environment or whatever, and we let them know that this gathering, the culmination of it is they get to decide which areas they want to better in the world, right? So it's
that is absolutely fantastic, brother. That is absolutely fantastic. Look at Gangsta Buddha empowering the kids. That is totally gangsta, man.
Fun, man.
Yeah, it sounds like a total riot. What else can we find on your site, since we're going to be on this waiting list now?
So I mean, the site itself, there'll be some podcast interviews, and here's the crazy thing. I've been having challenges getting into my site because it was hosted by someone else, and that person, I don't know, disappeared. No one get in touch with him, and I can't get into it to actually update it. So most people have been directed to my Facebook page, so I keep people updated that way. But I am launching a anonymous space. So it'll be invite only. I curate every member website for men to join anonymously, and they get to share anything they want around these 4 pillars that they face. And but then there's the other half, which is like Ryan Lee's Freedom website. So I'm part of Ryan Lee's Freedom website, and he teaches people to build membership sites. And the other half is providing all the tools to help men scale their business from a business perspective, right? So if you have a staff, you could log into it and they could learn marketing. You don't have to learn if you're too busy. But the most important thing is the men have a safe space Because if for every one man that goes on Facebook that says, "Hey, I'm fucked up,"
Yeah.
there's like probably 30 to 80 to 100 men that won't show up, right? So I'm there to provide those men a space to share. And I've ran a beta tested group for 30 men that I've handpicked, mainly tech and dental space. And the stuff that they share was mind blowing. That I know they would not share. And like a couple guys have like hundreds of millions of dollars in venture fund, and they can't. They feel they can't show vulnerability. They can't. They feel they can't. They feel it's just they want to so badly. And can I share what one guy says? Is that do we have time for that? I don't know how much time we have. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do it.
So I'm not going to give the full words because it's very, very vulgar, right? But he says, unless you want me to go full tilt, then I'm okay with that. But it was pretty vulgar. But he says, I run a business. I'm hitting $1 billion in sales. And so he goes under a code name Eagle Eye. That's his name. So no one knows who each other are except for me. So I know him because I invited him. But Eagle Eye says, I run a company. I'm almost hitting $1 billion. I have X amount of staff. So it's like 1,400 or something like that. He goes, 23% of them are women, and I want to sleep with every one of them. He said it in different words. Okay. Mm-hmm. But here's the problem. I have not slept with anyone. I have not been laid in 4 years, but my wife has. Right. So then he goes on. And so everyone's freaking out saying, oh, your wife cheated on you. It's the situation. And, but then he said, but the reason I'm here is not to blame my wife. I'm here to say that I contributed to this fully. And I'm here to own my shit. That's what he said. And I know I did this. And I want to make sure I share this. And I want to learn from it. And this is the community I want to, receive some support. So here we are having this guy who, and I know him. That's right. I know he's dying to let it out. And he finally let it all out. He let it all out. And then a week later, I brought in a relationship expert to work him through that. Like, it was powerful, right? So this is the opportunity that I want to provide men so they could just let go of things that are toxic, so they could show up as a better and stronger man for their partners, for their company, for their children. That's the whole point of this group. Crazy, huh?
Pretty damn. I wouldn't expect anything less from Gangsta Buddha. Gangsta Buddha, I've got your email, your website up, but I also have your Facebook up, and so y'all who are watching, Tuan is extremely accessible. His Facebook link is there. Any other questions that you have, please get in touch with him. I really had scoured the universe thinking that I was the best looking Asian man in the universe, in the multiverse. And then I come across Gangsta Buddha and I'm like, I gotta either tie with him or take number 2. That's a whole other conversation about the male Asian identity and the fact that there's sexy males that exist out there. And so sexy males own it, like Tuan, and Dilfs even.
I love it.
Dilfs, dudes, and the rest. So I'd love to have you back on. Tuan, if it's cool with you, I'd love to be on your show and rap a little bit more.
Yeah, dude, for sure.
At very least, hopefully one day you might consider me in one of those 4 pillars, and then there might be some folks down here that might be on each other's 4 pillars. Thank you for joining us. I want you to like Tuan. I want you to love Tuan. I want you to want some more of Tuan by sharing this out. Remember, we had some tech difficulties, and it's going to be on the 30 of you who've been liking this and the 30 of you who've been watching this, and we're going to spread this one out, okay? So given that, Tuan, I don't know if you know why this show is called The Golden Mic, but you've been through coaching, so you know visioning exercises.
Yeah.
So I want you to imagine, if you will, that in Canada's nation's capital, that a golden mic is now descending in your room, right? And it's stopping in front of you. And that golden mic will translate into every language all across the world for 2 minutes. And you're going to have a hot mic for 2 minutes. And so I'm flipping the switch. And Gangsta Buddha, you are on the golden mic.
All right, people of the world, I want you to remember one thing is that you are like an acorn that's ready to be an oak tree. That acorn has everything it needs to be an oak tree. Nothing more, nothing less. You have nothing to improve, nothing to remove. You are perfect the way that you are. All the acorn needs is the right environment. Figure out the right environment for you to flourish, and you will become that oak tree. It's all in you. You are perfect the way you are. Much love. Peace.
Oh, drop that golden mic! Drop that golden mic! Gangsta Buddha, it has been an honor to have you on, man. We needed to keep pushing to get you on, and it was so worth the wait. This has been episode 47, the Golden Mic Live. It is Thursday, which means that we are shutting off the Golden Mic for the weekend so we can spend time and be present and get the frick off social media if that's what we need to do. The Golden Mic is officially off until next Tuesday. I'll see you then, but I have one final question for all of those watching. If you're feeling good and you're living to your full purpose, what is your responsibility to the greater good? I'm Disruptor Buddha. This is Gangster Buddha. We're out!
Peace!
Laters!